So, when you work in tech, you have the privilege of working in different industries from healthcare to financial institutions to purely tech based industries or education. You can work across the board. But with that being said, I'd like to talk about the different types of organizations that you can work for. So, while you can move across different industries, you can work in different organizations. And I'm going to focus on the two main organizations that I have been exposed to, which is corporate and startup organizations. And there are a few things that I would like you to consider if you do have the option to choose which type of organization you're going to. So I have been exposed to mainly two different types of organizations, which is corporate and startup organizations. I don't have a preference. I'm just going to share my experience in the different types of organization, and then you can make a decision based on what works best for you. So, the things that I would consider, or the things that I'd like to highlight with the different organizations, is the first thing being the culture. The culture in a startup organization and in a corporate organization is very different. So, first of all, in a corporate organization, there is a lot of red tape. A lot of steps usually need to happen before a decision is made. And usually that decision-making process usually sits outside of the technological team. It's like decisions are made from higher up because it's normally hierarchical. And then once the decision is made, the tech team just has to implement. Whereas mostly in a startup organization, the decision making is almost distributed within the team. Why I'm saying that? Usually a problem has been presented or something wants to be created. So decisions being made in a startup organization are generally distributed in the sense that when a problem has been presented or something needs to be done, generally everyone has an opportunity to throw in their opinion around the solution that is being suggested. And obviously, there are people with more power, but there is an opportunity for even the junior people to be heard when it comes to these decisions that are being made. And not only an opportunity to be heard, but an opportunity to interrogate and to ask questions, again, depending on the dynamic within the team. And asking those questions sometimes contributes to how the final decision makers then make their decision because they're considering things that have been brought up in the conversation. What I have experienced in corporate is that a decision is made, and usually by the time that decision has been filtered through to a team, there isn't much pushback or much room to interrogate the decision because the decision has been made. You just need to find a way to make the thing happen. Just to summarize that point, in a startup organization, generally the tech team has an opportunity to be part of the conversation from the what, where, who, when, and why, and then the how. Right? That's the general dynamic within a startup organization. However, in a corporate organization, the team gets to decide, the tech team gets to decide on the how, and they are informed as to the why, but the who, when, what, and the other W's are generally decided beforehand and outside of the team. And so that's the first thing to consider. And then the way of work. I feel like in most corporates, in most of them, because not all of them that I've been exposed to are organized, but generally there's a clearly defined structure in terms of how people work, and it's defined. After this step, we move to this step. After this step, we move to this step. And personally, I like structure. I like to know what's coming. I like to know my deliverables and what is expected of me. Unlike in startups, especially in the beginning of the organization, the expectations are not really clear because there isn't a clearly defined structure. So you sort of have to figure your way around that dynamic. And then sometimes your expectations are shifting based on what's happening around you. So if you're not someone who enjoys the chaos or the rush of that, you may find startup organizations to be a bit chaotic. That being said, I have worked with a corporate which was not very organized, which I found very strange, but that's a story for another day. And it was a very chaotic environment because the bigger system was structured, but the team that I was working with was not very structured, and so that was a bit of a miss. But that's generally something that to consider when you're looking at a corporate versus a startup organization. And then exposure. I feel like in a corporate organization, you have a role, you assign that role, your task or expectations are clearly defined for you. Whereas in a startup, yes, you do have a role, but you need to be open to dipping your foot in the other lane if there's ever a need to. That means that you have more exposure to different roles and different things or elements of the business. Unlike in a corporate, you're working in a specific team, you stay in your lane, and that is the business unit that you're assigned to. There, unless you actually decide to move business units or teams, you're basically almost in that role. And the moment you try to dip into the different roles or the different lanes, you actually tend to step on people's toes. So that's something to consider when comparing a corporate versus a startup. And then obviously there's the financial aspect of it. Generally, corporate organizations are known to be more stable. They have better perks and benefits for their employees. Whereas with startups, sometimes the payment might not be very good, depending again on how mature the startup is. Especially in the first 5 years, you might not be getting paid what could be market related. It depends. But as the startup matures, then the income might be market related. But those are things to consider when you're looking at whether to consider a startup or a corporate organization. And I think it also depends on where you are in your life as well. Like, I feel like some of these decisions depend on what is also happening in your personal life. Yeah, so that's just it basically. I feel like if you are going to be at a startup, it would be best to do that at the beginning of your career when you don't have a lot of financial responsibilities. But I feel like when you have a family or more responsibilities, people then tend to consider things that don't interfere with the stability of the family. That's just my take on it. But yeah, these are my thoughts and opinions. I don't know what you think or what your experience has been if you've been exposed to a corporate organization or a startup organization. I have to give the disclaimer that I have not worked for a government institution, so I don't know the dynamics that come with that. That may be something that is in my future. I'm not sure. I'm not particularly looking for it. But I guess if it makes sense for me to make the move to a government institution, I would consider it. But yeah, what is your take on it, and what do you think? Is there one that is better than the other? I personally don't think that either or is better. I just feel like it depends on a lot of things, where you are in your personal life, what it is that you're looking for, and if you can take the risk depending on what is going on. I have moved across different organizations. I left a corporate organization where I was feeling stagnated, and I went to a bit of a startup-y organization where I wanted to get more exposure on certain skills that I wanted to improve on. And that move financially was not much of a big difference because I moved for the same amount of income. Even the benefit was just medical aid. But for me, it made sense for me to make that move at that point in my career. So yeah, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you think. I would really be interested to hear what you have to say. If you liked this video, if you enjoyed this video, please do let me know, either by liking or leaving a comment. I really appreciate that. And yeah, let's get the conversation going, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.